What's going on? It's another episode of Better Nurse Court. It's your favorite color in the world, brown, along with my co-host Ruse, and we have another good one for you today, folks. So I've been at work lately, walking around, and as you know, we are in healthcare, and I'm seeing a lot of unhappy people. I mean, people just walking around miserable. Sometimes myself included. And that just got me to thinking, are you, are you happy in healthcare?
It depends on the day, right?
Yeah.
It's like, where's the joy gone? Where's the joy in healthcare? Yeah, it's an interesting topic to talk about.
Yeah.
The joy in healthcare, where has it gone? Has it gone? Or is it just the two of us?
I don't know. It's definitely not just the two of us. I mean, I can honestly say people are freaking miserable out there. I mean, it's very seldom where I hear someone say something good about working in healthcare. It's challenging, as we've mentioned on this show before. But where did it go? Where did the joy go? What happened? And we say COVID a lot, but COVID can't be the only culprit, because things have been happening before COVID. It might have intensified, but it's been happening before. So where did it go?
It's interesting, right? So if you're thinking about the joy of healthcare, is it just us old timers? We're not even old timers, right?
No.
Is it just us old timers saying that it was better back in the day? Is it one of those lines, or is it objectively worse? And I think it's objectively worse. If, like you said, I'm walking around, I'm listening to nurse practitioners, I'm listening to nurses, I'm listening to doctors, to residents, and everybody's miserable. And I think people don't take into account the sheer workload that comes with it, and the level of stress, and the external forces that affect us with that. And there's so many external forces. And I'm not even talking about what's going on in your own personal life, right? I'm talking about patient ratios, both for nurses, for PAs, for NPs, healthcare in general, right? We're getting slammed in the hospitals more and more. Patients are coming in sicker and sicker. And the sheer dynamic of everything that's going on within healthcare has now somehow negatively impacted the workflow. And what do I mean by that? We have a shift in our nursing population. A lot of us left, a lot of us changed jobs. So we find ourselves with massive gaps in between, the sheer number of people. The people are getting sicker, and they're coming in droves in higher amounts. At least that's what it feels like. And when you're sitting there taking care of, more than what you thought you should be, or what you think you should be, it's a objectively, higher stress level at that point. And you can see it across the face of everybody. I mean, there are residents getting ready to strike. I didn't even know residents could strike.
I just found that out too.
Right?
I just found that out.
I
didn't even know they had a union to strike.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. So apparently, it's gotten so bad that medical students are striking.
What world is this?
Right? I thought those were like, the essential end all be all, do whatever I say, as many hours as I say kind of people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I thought they were dependent, but no. So think about it. If residents at this point are turning around and complaining, right? And trust me, they've always had it worse than nurses in sheer hours of work.
Absolutely.
Right? I'm not talking about the style of work, but the sheer hours of work. So can you imagine what the bedside nurse is now going through, right? The nurse practitioners, the sheer number of people that we're seeing day in and day out. It almost feels like a factory, right? That we're churning butter. Yeah.
I think when an organization, it doesn't necessarily even have to be within healthcare, but any organization, I think when they get to a certain size, they become so numbers driven, which I'm not saying that's a total bad thing. However, I do think that everything comes with a cost of something, right? And when it comes to healthcare, when you put numbers and profits over the people, over the actual work, I think that's where you enter a danger zone. And then that's where we are now, because people, like you said, I love the word that you said, that they come in droves, and that's so accurate, because it's like, it's just, imagine high volumes of people with nurses and healthcare workers, but we're talking about nurses because this is a nurse podcast. But we're talking about these people are
affects us
just
all, though.
miserable. Everybody is just miserable, and it's because we can't get to the root of why we even went into this field, in my opinion, because we're so busy. Like, you can't even have a conversation. I remember being a nurse manager in on a unit, and I remember telling my staff that they had to, try their best to sit and with their patients for 5 minutes. Try their best.
5
And I remember
minutes.
as I'm saying
5 minutes.
as those words are coming out of my mouth, I'm thinking in the back of my head, like, this is not realistic at all. I know this is not realistic.
As you were saying it,
I was saying it.
As they exit the mouth, it's like in the back of your head, that little man is sitting there going, "Really?
Now come on.
No, come on. Seriously?
Come on.
You saying this?"
Yeah. Come on. And I said it because I had to say it, but in reality, I knew that it wasn't realistic, because when you have that many amount of patients, and you have what I call, I think that the patients nowadays, they're professional patients. Like, a lot of them, depending on where you live in the country, they have professional patients, and they know exactly how to act,
Dr. Google,
how to behave, what to say, when to say it, how to say it. They know every loophole, everything that they can do to. It's just their professional patients. So imagine you being a novel nurse, someone maybe just even a year out, not having had the experience of these professional patients who probably know more than you do at this point. Like, they know your job better than you because they've seen everything a gazillion and trillion times. Imagine now you're taking care of them, and they know your job better than you do, and you have about 5 of those patients. And you might have a couple of nice ones, but you have some really tough patients who require a lot of professionalism, for lack of better terms. So yeah, it's not even that, though. It's
now
it's
combine that with a couple of actual sick patients.
Yes.
Now you have a nightmare scenario.
Yes. And then you have the family members, because when they opened the hospital doors up after the COVID lockdown, and everything was fine now, once everything was solidified, and you can let family members come into the hospital now, oh man, it got pretty bad. And it's pretty bad, because now you have a lot of people coming at you, and it's a lot of pressure, and you have to know how to handle yourself. But it comes with time. Like, after a while, though, like, I don't want to deter anybody from the nursing profession, but after a while, it does get better, and you do know how to handle yourself. But this is why the joy has gone. This is where it's going.
Can we get it back? And is it really gone, though? Is it really gone? Or are we in like a momentary under the cloud kind of thing? Right? Will the sun come out tomorrow?
I think if we let it get too far, then there is a point of no return.
So let's talk about that.
Now, have we reached the point of no return? I think we're pretty mother freaking close. I think we're pretty mother freaking close.
It's funny that you say that. Do you think it would be different if, because staffing issues have been around, right?
Right.
That has not gone away. I can't even imagine that being not an issue way back when and, God knows in the future. But I think when you have a sheer number of newness, and I mean that by all the love in the world for my new nurses, when you have a whole group or more than 50% of your crew is brand new and therefore they're task oriented, they kind of work in silos at the same time. And that teamwork, I feel like, might be jeopardized. Now, I might get a lot of flack for that, right? The internet might turn on me on that one. But I feel like because people are so focused on their own patients that they're not having fun at work. And the fun has left work. Because nursing can be fun, right? Nursing can be very fun. Those same patients who are professional patients, you can have fun with them, right? They might not necessarily be the sickest patients, but you can have fun with them, right? You can have a quick, banter with them. So going back to that 5-minute sit down, I used to say the same thing, right? But I wouldn't say 5 minutes. I used to tell them, have a conversation with your patient, right? Have a conversation with your patient throughout the day. Every time you walk in there, it's an opportunity for you to speak to that patient about something and have the conversation going, right? It's not something that necessarily needs to be have a conversation, end the conversation, move on to the next conversation, right? Leave it open-ended. I'll get back to you. Let me think about that, and keep the conversation going throughout the day. Joke with them, right? Know when it's appropriate to joke with them, but joke with them. And if I find, if you have personal story, side story, we had this one character everywhere I've worked that when she or he would walk on the unit would automatically feel more lighter because they brought that energy with them at work, right? And they were comedians. They would say the silliest things. They wouldn't be afraid to make a fool out of themselves, right? And we will all laugh. We would all laugh. No. It is. It is. It's one of those things where when you have somebody that brings that good energy in, it affects everybody. It's contagious, just like the bad energy.
Yeah.
So, not to dismiss the issues that we have, with healthcare and being able to, but we can mitigate some of it, is what I'm trying to say, I guess. We can sugarcoat that medicine, right? That nastiness, that lack of joy. We can bring that back on a day-to-day basis ourselves. It just takes a little bit of effort, and we just need to take off the blinders, right? And actually see each other again, and interact with each other again, and have a conversation with each other again, right? Everybody's this way, right? People are sitting there on their off hours. I walk into a break room and people are on their phones. They're not having a conversation anymore. So to me, that's part of it, right? The other part of it is the corporate aspect of it, that we as leaders need to recognize that we need to bring back the joy ourselves into it in a meaningful way, though, right? And I think those two things are the two biggest things that can either make or break your crew, right? Your own internal unit-based stuff is one part, and then the corporate portion, right? The bigger portion, the executive portion, the director portion, that's the other half.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's a tug of war between those that really do have good intentions out there. I really believe that there are healthcare workers that come into this thing with the most excellent and just profound intentions to do their very best for the people and humanity. I know some of them. There are plenty of them.
I would like to think that 99% of people who get into it, and I'm going to play that naive card, right? I'm going to play that I don't know what the word is, but that positive card.
Yeah.
I think 99% of people who get into, especially nursing, are getting into it because they want to help somebody. Healthcare in general, because they want to help somebody. They want to have a positive, meaningful impact, right?
And get paid.
And get paid.
And nursing is one of those professions. But then there's this tug of war between, I guess, the upper management, who obviously wants a return on their investment, and they become numbers driven. And I think there's just this back and forth between those two schools. And how do you find that middle ground? Because in reality, you have to find that middle ground when we're at work, because we have, again, those two different schools. We have a responsibility to ourselves, and we also have a responsibility to our place of employment. And part of the responsibility to ourselves is honestly being able to enjoy where you work. And so I'm so very happy you mentioned that part about the teamwork and your colleagues, because your colleagues, and if you have the right team, is what I'm trying to say, you're gonna have a good shift. Like, it really doesn't matter
Even if it's a
how
bad
bad the shift
Yeah.
is, because it just it's almost like LeBron and freaking Shaq and Kobe. Sorry, Shaq and Kobe. It's almost like Shaq and Kobe in their
Going old
prime.
school,
Like,
Shaq
like
and Kobe.
yeah, like it's just like it just works well. It doesn't matter what tough situation you might be involved in.
Yeah.
You can just work through
You
it.
might even lose the game, but you'll have fun doing it.
Yeah,
You'll have fun doing it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I used to ask, and I still do, are you happy? Not just happy at work, are you happy? Right? And our happiness, I think, comes from outside of our work, first and foremost. I think it has to be internalized. And I used to tell my colleagues, I used to tell my employees more so than, my colleagues, if you're not happy, you're not effective. All right? If you're not happy, you're not effective. If you want to be an effective human being, you need to be happy. And if I've never said it before, let me say it again, but that's my mantra. You need to be happy to be effective. Right? However that may be.
We've all had bad days, and before you even get to work, and having those,
the drive-in can break you.
Yeah. And it can kind of continue throughout the rest of your shift, and don't remember, it's a 12-hour shift. So it can kind of continue throughout the rest of your shift if you kind of let it. So self-awareness, and to go back to that, super important. Understanding that 12 hours is a long time, in my opinion. And you don't want a 12 hours of hell. So you do have to find some, I don't know, some serenity and some peacefulness and some happiness prior to going to work is what I got at when I heard you say that.
So let's talk about those two scenarios real quick. The internal stuff obviously has to come from internal, right? Has to come from the outside, whether that's exercise, that's family, that's your, recreational stuff. That's your own thing. As a corporation, as a manager, as a director, as an executive, as a CEO, I mean, nobody wants pizza and ice cream anymore. I think we're all diabetics and high blood pressured out at this point, right? Nobody wants ice cream and pizza anymore. They don't.
That's hilarious.
Right? It's almost insulting at this point, especially after COVID, especially after, everything that we've all kind of gone through.
Yeah.
Right? And even if it's novel for the new nurses, it gets old quick. Right? So how do you bring the fun back into the workplace? Because if I was running a hospital, one of the things that I would want is some type of game / media / entertainment, something going on within the hospital, within the units, within something, right? Different places have different things, right? Some of the bigger places, you see a piano in the lobby. I've rarely seen it used. In other places, they go around, give ice cream or tea or candy or something like that. And that's appreciated. Don't get me wrong. We like ice cream, we like pizza, we like tea, we like candy bars, and that's appreciated. That's fine. But that's not fun, right? To me, that's not fun. How do I make work fun again? We have these once a year things, every 6 months things, like talent shows and stuff like that. Not everybody gets to go to those, and not everybody's going to come in to work to see that from home, right? So how do you instill fun into it? I have an idea. You want to share yours?
I don't have one yet.
You don't have one yet.
No, I do. But go ahead.
So where we used to work last, there was a lot of talented people, right? And this is not necessarily something that I came up with, but this is something that I modified. There was a lot of talented people who can sing, right? I used to tell them, like, we should get like a little karaoke machine inside the cafeteria, right? So when people are in the cafeteria, in the corner, and if they want to bust out a song or something, right, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right? There's nothing wrong with it. Have some fun. Allow for that fun to exist within the workplace, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think virtually any team building exercise would be beneficial consistently. I mean, I'm going to say even like once a quarter. I think at minimum you should have some type of team building exercise. Me personally, I don't think you really get to know people at work. I think you get to know them outside of work. And I personally, like, what I did with my team was, we went out. We didn't go out often enough, but and we still sometimes still do, but we go out and it's off the cuff and we have a good time. And that's how you really, to me, in my opinion, get to build that team like atmosphere at work, outside of work. When you come into work, you talk about the good time you had. Hey, remember such and such did this and this and this, and then that sparks the conversation. Everybody laughs, and they go about their day. Like those types of events are, to me, what makes or breaks a good team.
Yeah. I mean, now combine those two things, right? Some people don't like to go and hang out with their work.
It's
right?
true.
They like to keep it separate, and that's respectable, right?
Yeah.
And that's respectable. If you have a combination of things like this, the fortitude to actually and the guts, and I think it really does take guts to do something like this, because I don't see other hospitals doing it, right? You hear these other hospitals like what was that hospital that we were talking about before, that everybody seems like they're happy?
Oh, Cleveland Clinic. Cleveland
Clinic, right? Like, all you hear, is it PR or is it actually happening, right? What are they doing that their people are, saying all these beautiful things? I think we need to look what's working and what's not, and try something new, try something out of the box. And that takes a little bit of guts.
Yeah. Because in reality, we're still doing the same things for elevated problems. We're trying to use the same tools for, a bigger demon to defeat. You kind of have to switch the strategy up a little bit, and evolve. I do believe in using historical means to, but you've also got to switch it up, because after a while,
maybe we should ask ChatGPT what we should do. How can we make nursing more fun, healthcare more fun? Right?
That's a good point.
That's a good point, right?
as I get my phone, but yeah, it's a lot. I do think that whatever organization does figure it out, they're going to be innovative in some way, shape, or form. They're going to have to be. It's going to be a risk, but I do believe that a corporation that invests in their employees,
will get.
I do believe people stay within that organization longer,
and make
especially
it
in highly competitive markets like nursing.
Yeah, and make it easier for them to be able to transition within the community. A lot of places, they talk about, being able to move around departments and trying to figure out what you like and what you don't like and stuff like that. But it's a lot more complicated and HR driven than it needs to be, in my opinion. Right?
Yeah.
And if you allow people a certain level of freedom that equates to fun and learning and education, people would like that more. Wouldn't you? Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me.
No.
Like, I like a challenge, right? I'm not looking for a handout, right? I like a challenge. I don't mind a challenge. I learn through challenges. What you were talking about, that team building, in my opinion, you're built under two circumstances, either when you're having fun with somebody or when you go through a stressful situation with that person and come out
Yeah.
on the other side of it.
That's another way.
And we've
Absolutely.
had both now,
Mhm.
right? We've had
Now we're a
both.
family.
Now we're a family,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We survived X, Y, and Z together. And it doesn't need to be a COVID level pandemic. It could just be a bad shift, right?
Mhm.
It could be an 8-hour, code. It could be a 2-hour code. But the
Yeah.
idea behind it is that it brings people to closer. So instead of waiting for something tragic to happen, I think we could actively work on it and make things better for ourselves. Bring the energy in, right? Bring that positivity in, have some fun, allow work to be the one place where you don't have to, think about what's going on at home, what's going on at the drive-in, what's going on with the politics of the world. But, let work become almost like a safe haven of silliness and work. If that could ever exist together, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. There has to be a balance. And right now, we're too far at the end of the spectrum where it's chaotic all of the time. And I think I've said this before, but there hasn't really been a reprieve in the past couple of years. It's been literally like an engine. You're pressing on the accelerator and you're not letting go. We gotta ease
Eventually,
up
it's
a
going to
little
choke
bit.
out.
Yes, exactly. We gotta ease up a little bit before we choke out. And an organization that realizes that we gotta slow down a little bit and give these guys a break before we continue to waste money on turnover, before we continue to waste money on call outs, continue to waste money on travel nurses. To me, if you invest in the employees, you pay them well, and you realize that they're being burnt out, and you kind of buffer that so they can breathe, and then press the accelerator again if you need to. But you have to balance it out in some way, shape, or form. And it's a dance. And I'm not saying I know how to dance that dance very well, but I'm saying that, to me, we can't keep doing the same things to try to resolve these issues that continuously happen. We got to try something new.
Yeah. You don't even have to lay off the gas. You really don't. You can keep the gas on, just make it more realistic, right? Nobody said get off the gas. Nobody said, your profit margins need to be, touched. Just bring back that humanity, that humor back into work. And it's a lot easier than what people think it is, right? And I'm not talking about our jaded group cohort, right? There are certain people, no matter what you do, they're cynical, they're jaded. I love you all. You know who you are. This ain't for you, right? You know your job. You know how to do it very well. But no matter what we will do, you will never be happy, right? God bless you. I love you, but I'm going to stay far away from you. But for everybody else, the 98%, the rest of the people, if you actually allow them some joy back, some realistic, right? We have certain policies, we have certain things that we mitigate and we focus on, and it's the wrong thing, in my opinion. It's the wrong thing. right? I understand the logic behind it, right? But you can justify just about anything if you write it, right? But does it make sense? And sometimes what we do in hospitals as policies and stuff like that, or as approaches of how we want to do team building and stuff like that, it just doesn't make sense, or it's not the right time for it, right? And I think CEOs and CNOs and we all need to we need to downshift and actually start walking our units again, and not just walking through. I'm talking about put your scrubs on, come on the unit, sit down, and play nurse's aide for the day. Nobody said take care of patients, right? But play nurse's aide. Be the extra pair of hands on that unit, on your busiest, craziest unit.
Get yelled at by that crazy patient.
Get yelled at by that crazy patient. Yeah. It's one of those things. Then, and only then, you'll be able to actually sit down and try to figure out what brings these people joy, right? People say walk the walk, right? Put yourself in somebody else's shoes, right? It really makes an effect, because when you're up here, you're the executive, you're looking at the long-term goals. You're looking at, things like profit margins. You're looking at numbers, budgetary stuff, right? It's very cold and calculated. We have enough people in finance for that. We don't need more finance people on. We need to bring back CEOs, CNOs, directors, managers who are allowed to sit on the unit and interact with their staff. So,
yeah,
that's half of it for me. That's half of it. Because we spend entirely too much money on healthcare in this country for it to be this broken. And I'm not just talking about the financial aspects of it. I'm talking about the fun stuff, right? The financial aspect alone is a joke. But we can do better. And we have the tools to do better, right?
So what are some of the tools? Like, how do we begin to do better? I think
other than everything I just said.
So other than that, because I think there's something that we could do before we even become nurses.
Ooh, now you got me peaked. What's up? What's that?
So I think it starts with the nursing students. I think it starts literally with them. And here's why. I think with nurses that have been doing it for a while, the damage has already been done.
Hopefully it's not permanent.
Hopefully it's not permanent, but for some it is. I mean, let's just be realistic. I mean, some of us have left and are leaving the industry, the field, the career. So for some of us, it's already gone. But I think that we need to start with nursing school, paint realistic pictures of what it is in a real life situation, whether it be an urbanized hospital, a community hospital, a magna hospital. They should know what they're getting themselves into. That's one. And two, I think we need to create realistic scenarios where nursing students fully understand that there's going to be some really tough days. And this is what the tough days are going to be like. And if you have a good team, if you help your colleagues out, because you will need each other, then I fully and wholeheartedly believe that if we instill certain values within nursing students, that it will translate into real life situations, everyday scenarios.
So you're trying to say we got to catch them young. We got to teach them young.
That's the only way.
Yeah, I agree. That's very valid. My nursing students, for all of you who I've taught in the past, who I will teach in the future, either through personal or through this medium, understand that your colleagues, you're going to spend more time with them than sometimes your own family. And you need to be nice to each other. You don't need to be best friends. You don't need to go out with each other. You don't need to know everything. But while you're there for those 12 hours, for those 13 hours, for those 8 hours, you need to understand that they are your other half.
Yeah.
Right? You're the left arm, they're the right arm. They're the right arm, you're the left arm, whatever. It's one of those things where yeah. That's crazy, man. I don't think nursing students are given the proper, realistic.
And they're coming in surprised as hell, shocked as hell, and they're like, "Oh heck, no! I'm out of here." on to nurse practitioner school. Then they become a nurse practitioner. Oh gosh, this still sucks.
Listen, we deal with the exact same things, right? Why do you think the residents are getting ready to, call out? When you end up, right, the workload's different, but when you end up with 12, 15, 20, 25 patients because of whatever that situation may be, right? Because you think it's a Friday night and it's not going to be as busy, or a Saturday night and you think it's not as busy. The ER doesn't stop. Other things don't stop, right? You need to be able to staff properly. You need to be able to do that. But then again, you need to have people who are working together and are willing to work together. And
there's one thing. There's one other thing that I think that we should have mentioned that we didn't mention, and that is violence. The violence to healthcare workers. That's another reasoning why we are so unhappy, because we keep getting beat up every time we go to work. You got beat up when you got socked at work. I got
sucker punched.
Trying to do your job, and you got punched at work. Wait, listen, people.
It is not cool to raise your hand.
It's not cool
against the person who's trying to either feed you, or wash you, or give you medicine. Right? Yeah.
I mean,
the sheer number of violence has gone up.
Yes.
Across the board. I think we would have to look up the crime rate and stuff like that. If you do nursing long enough, it becomes a contact sport.
Oh yeah.
And I hope that you never experience that. But unfortunately, a AMS person, right? Somebody going through withdrawal, somebody going through, disease processes that they're encephalopathic and they're not thinking straight. And if you are not aware of your body mechanics, or just happen to be bad timing, right? Things like that will happen, right? But the other half of it is those people who are just complete meanies, those rude, mean, angry people that come in and they're sick and you still have to take care of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You still have to take care of them no matter what. I mean, that's what you signed up for, right?
I've taken care of hitmen. I've taken care of, child abusers. I've taken care of, murderers. I've taken care of incarcerated for silliness.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen them all. And you still have to treat them, right? They're still a human being. They made a lot of mistakes and they might not be a good person. And some people might think that they don't deserve it, but they still, in my opinion, they still do, right? Everybody deserves, unless we're doing corporate punishment and corporal punishment, and we're not, right? But that's your job. That's what we signed up for, right?
Yeah.
Remember the history of nursing, where it came from, right? These were people who would go into the battlefields and try to take care of people who were shot and stabbed and, had limbs blown off and stuff like this, right? That's where nursing started, right? But it doesn't have to, just because it started in violence and it was given birth through violence, doesn't mean that it has to end that way. And I think we have that ability to bring back and get control of it. And we have to do that. That's the thing, though. Like, we talk about it and we we like to point the fingers at everybody else, right? But at the end of the day, that person who comes onto that unit and has that energy, now imagine a full crew
Of that. Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that would just be absolutely amazing. So it's upon us. I think we have to look in the mirror and say, what type of workplace do we want to create? And I don't think it's ever too late. I think even that jaded person is looking for that sliver of hope to see it, or at least see it enough times to start believing it. Because we've seen a lot of different types of, starts, but never follow-throughs or continuations.
So yes, I agree. It definitely begins with us. To go a little further, I think it also requires regulation of some sort, particularly
cadence.
pertaining to the nurse or the violence to healthcare workers. Let's just not even stick it to just nurses. Violence towards healthcare workers. I think that there needs to be some type of law, with exception to people that are altered, dementia, something that,
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but you get what I mean. Like,
Yeah, if
you're
clinically,
a healthy person,
correct. If you're clinically altered mental status, right, due to a clinical reason,
yeah,
you're not excused from it, but you're forgiven for it.
yeah,
But if you're healthy and you're
just
times
mad.
3 and just angry at the world,
Yeah. To me, you
There
deserve
needs-
to go to jail for that.
there should
You
be some
deserve-
legal
you deserve-
ramification.
Yeah,
I agree.
And-
And it doesn't exist right now, does
it
it?
does not exist. It does not exist. And to me, it's almost like a slap in the face, because you have it for other industries. Why not have it for one of the industries that brings in a heck of a lot of money? A heck of a lot of money. My mom just had hip surgery. The bill was $200,000. Thank God for insurance. But whoa. I mean, that's one person. Imagine if you do a couple of hips. That hospital, they're making some money now. You can afford to
Some
lobby.
lobbyists for that.
Yeah.
We're calling you out on it.
We calling you
Yeah.
out right
We're
now.
calling you out on it. Yeah, I agree. It's interesting that we're expected to take care of the death and the dying, the sick and the ill, the mentally, unstable. And we're expected to have all of these, go through pandemics without, in a nice stoic marching on forward, right? We're the good soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
but there's nothing there to protect us legally. Yeah. A nice, a safety blanket in that aspect would be
Yeah.
nice.
To know
nice.
that I can go to work and at
And feel
least
safe.
I'll have that type of safety behind me, knowing that the other person knows that, hey, if I assault this healthcare worker, something really bad is going to happen to me as a result. Just to have that knowingness, that might make somebody a little happier going to work.
'Cause in a lot of ways, we can equate that to like flight attendants, right? We're stuck in a room, possibly alone with somebody, and God knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And sharp things are all around us,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. That's interesting. I never thought about that. Why isn't there something like that? And would that equate to happiness at work? It would allow for some calmness at work, some less anxiety at work,
Yeah.
right? That's just another layer. It's just another layer.
If I'm anxious at work, I'm not performing at my best. I'm not my best nurse, which means I'm not giving my best care. But you can't blame me if I feel scared. If I got to worry about the person coming upstairs, if I gotta worry about the patients attacking me, I got like like you have to really understand that. In my opinion, um, not every place is safe. I've heard of situations where people bring in certain things in the hospital that shouldn't belong, and contraband. This
That's almost on a daily basis at this point. People are bringing contrabands left and right. You find crack pipes, you find needles, and these are the most creative people. Like
professional patients.
we
I'm telling you.
we have found folded up crack cocaine
Mhm.
in the most, you would have never thought it. You would have never thought it. Hidden in pockets in secret areas that you would have never. Yeah. And then also, and this person goes crazy and thinks, they can do whatever they want and no repercussion. What's going to happen? I'm going to slap the nurse. I'm going to, kick the punch the nurse. I'm going to pretend this and that, and there's no repercussions. Yeah. That exists.
Yeah.
That exists. And there's no repercussions. Yeah, you can. So the day that I got punched in the face, I pressed charges. Whatever came of that.
Probably nothing, to be honest with you.
I never heard back anything. Nothing. The police came, they arrested the person, and this was a visitor, not even a patient at this point. This was a visitor. And the person, I never heard back anything. And there was no follow-up at all. Right?
I'm not surprised. And that's what I'm saying. It's a prime example.
Misdemeanor? I don't know.
That's a
My
prime
lawyers
example.
out there, what is that?
ChatGPT. But yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, to wrap things up, where did it go? For a lot of people, that's subjective. I could say what we see out there. We mentioned a lot of the things that we see. Doesn't necessarily have to be this way. Hopefully, we can change this. Hopefully those that listen to this episode will help change this. And we can all come together and get that seat at the table and make some changes on a corporate level, on a federal level. And yeah, get that joy back to work. Personal care, knowing yourself, knowing the things that make you happy, being happy before work, teamwork, working together as a team to achieve, just getting to the end of the day. And I want to bring it back to self-care, but you can't take care of nobody unless you take care of yourself. So
you need to
meditate, exercise, eat well. Yeah.
It's both mentally and physically taxing. Nursing, specifically bedside nursing, is very physically and mentally taxing. You have to be happy and healthy yourself in order for you to be effective nurse. There's no sugarcoating that one. You have to be happy and healthy, whatever that may be. And if your job, you go in there and you realize that that's not for you, don't be afraid. Go to your manager. Say, I thought this was supposed to be like this. It's not like this. And have a real heart-to-heart conversation with them. They're a human being, trust me. They want to hear these things. At least I did, right? When I was in a position of management, I wanted to know if something was working or not.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, is there something I can do about it, right? Transfer them, whatever. And we need to make these things, these processes. So when we talk about where's the joy in healthcare, I think it's a multi-layer cake. We need to look at it and go, it's not a quick fix. It's not a one solution fits all kind of thing. It has to be layered on top of each other. Some of it will work, some of it will not work. But as long as we keep building, then we can actually, address the problem more effectively than what we are right now.
Absolutely.
And I still want a karaoke machine in most cafeterias, man. Think about it. You go to lunch, and somebody has a beautiful voice that likes to sing anyway. Listen, there's always one on every unit that hums all day long or all night long, right?
As long as I
How?
could do the hip hop ones and they have curses in it. Can you
Listen,
imagine?
it's the radio edit. Come on now. There's a radio edit version of every song.
Like Brown said, what? I was singing. Oops. We're gonna bleep that out.
No, listen, it's human language, man. As long as it brings joy, you need to offload. We have built. Where's the joy gone? It's gone dark. We always had dark humor within healthcare to begin with. Now it feels like fire department's showing up. That dark humor needs to be transformed again, right? Instead of us developing this dark sense of humor to protect ourselves from all the traumatic things that we see, right? Because what we see is the equivalent of what, military people see on the battlefield. Things that we should not technically be seeing, right? I'm not saying it's the same level of stress. Nobody's, shooting at me. I'm not running for my life, right? Let's not compare that.
Not at all.
But the sheer closest thing to that level of PTSD that develops is within nursing, is within bedside nursing. And if we don't acknowledge that, and if we don't realize that, it's going to continue to deteriorate. Our healthcare system is dependent on humans, first and foremost. And we need to take care of ourselves, and we need to take care of each other.
Until
And it's that simple. We need to acknowledge that. And I don't feel like people have acknowledged that up top.
Yeah.
I think profits have now completely,
Taken over. Yeah, take it over. Absolutely. So, yeah.
We're gonna end it that way.
No, yeah. So this has been another great episode of the Better Nurse Corp. It's your favorite color in the world, along with my co-host Ruse. And till next time, peace.